Hey everybody, welcome back to the tractor series. Today we're working on the Yanmar 2500 diesel tractor, replacing the water pump. So if you guys are new here, we picked up this Yanmar YM2500 diesel tractor. We got it for about $2,000, so we didn't pay very much for it, and it's a great running little tractor. But we're going to go through it, and we're changing out a bunch of parts to make this thing more reliable because we're getting ready to put it to work here on the property. So we do have a pretty large piece of property here, and it needs some major clearing and bush hogging, and that's why we got this tractor to help us maintain it and keep everything good. So anyways, today we're going to be replacing the water pump, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you guys how to do. We're going to do a step-by-step together. So this is the water pump right here, and as you can see, mine has been leaking out the bottom here. It's kind of hard to tell, but it has been leaking, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to replace it. So this is your water pump right here. All right, you should have 6 bolts going around your water pump, but we're going to show you exactly how to replace it. And let's start off by removing the radiator. So today's video is sponsored by FridayParts.com. Fix it once, fix it right. If you guys have tractors, off-road equipment, heavy trucks, you know, you name it, chances are they have the part, they have it in stock, ready to ship. So go to FridayParts.com and check them out. So here is our water pump. And we have a gasket. And we also have some little studs for the fan. That's what that looks like. That goes right here. Also right here, this product here is off of Amazon. This is a tool that's going to help us get the job done, and I will leave the link in the description. These are carbide gasket scrapers. Okay, this is what we're going to use to scrape the gasket. You know, back in the day we would use razor blades or emery cloth. It's just a lot easier to use an actual gasket scraper like these, and we're going to show you guys how those work today. I do have a little tip here for y'all. So this is just a piece of styrofoam here, and I took the new water pump and I just placed it on here and I traced it, and then I just drew little circles where the bolt holes are. So this is just an old mechanic trick that helps you remember where the bolts go. You can do this with cardboard, styrofoam, you know, just an old trick here. Then also I'm using some ultra black gasket maker, and this is just going to go around the new gasket. You know, it doesn't take very much at all, but you can use blue, you can use black, you know, it's up to you what you want to use. You definitely want to put something on there. And then also you need a can of brake cleaner. So the first thing that we're going to do is drain the radiator. So now on these tractors, a lot of them, they have drain plugs, and mine is right here. And that plug actually runs to the bottom of the radiator. So it is a 3/4 inch wrench, and we are going to drain the radiator. I love gear wrenches. There we go. Look at all that rusty water. Grab my bolt. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and take off these radiator hoses. So you got that little hose here that's going to the drain. You got the main hose on the bottom here. And then you also have a top hose. So we're going to go ahead and take off all of our hoses. So the first ones I'm going to do is at the bottom. I'm just using a flathead screwdriver, or you can get the correct socket to go over these hose clamps. Okay, there's the bottom one. Okay, got that one. So now it's time to remove the radiator. To remove the radiator, you have 4 bolts on the front. You got 1, 2, and then 2 on the other side. And these bolts are 13 millimeter. The next thing we're going to do is remove the fan shroud, which is 4 bolts again, 2 on each side. These are also 13 millimeter. Now you should be able to separate the fan shroud from the radiator and pull the radiator out first. Now that the radiator is out, you should be able to remove the fan shroud. So the next thing you want to do is actually take off this fan. Now there's 4 bolts holding it on, and they are 10 millimeter. So you just hold the fan simply with one hand, and they come off pretty easy. Just don't lose them. Once you get all your bolts out, you should pull the fan and the pulley assembly off together. And then also you have the pulley that the belt's sitting on. It all should come loose with the fan. Now you can get your belt out of the way. And when we reinstall the belt, we might have to adjust the alternator, because the alternator is how you tension the belt. But we'll do that later on. So the next thing you want to do is take off the bottom 2 hoses that are connected to the water pump. So you can use a flathead screwdriver, or you can get the correct socket size that fits on the hose clamp. There we go. Whew, that was a tough one. So now we can start taking off the water pump. The smaller bolts are 10 millimeter, and the 2 bigger bolts here on the side are 13 millimeter. All right, so we have all our bolts out, but there's still 2 bolts that are stuck in here and one at the bottom. These bolts are so rusted. The reason why it's like this is because there's no antifreeze in it. You know, whoever had this tractor, just straight water, so everything is so rusty. So to get this water pump off, just get a couple taps. There, it's coming off right now. Just wiggle it. It should come right off. All right, look at this. Let's take this up on the table and look at this. Look at that. As you can see, my water pump is pretty bad, but it's so bad to where these 2 bolts here are just stuck in there. They're so seized in there with rust. So I'm gonna go ahead and find me some replacement bolts for this and see if we can get this put back together. So while we're waiting for those bolts, we can take our gasket scraper and you can scrape all this nice and clean. Man, it works really good. A lot easier than a razor blade. And you won't mess it up, you know? So while I was scraping my gasket off, I noticed that mine has like some pretty good nicks in there. I don't know if you can see those nicks in there and stuff. So I have decided to go ahead and replace the water pump back plate, and that's this piece right here. That's this whole assembly here, and it's got your sensor in it for your temperature sensor. So I'm going to go ahead and replace mine. I got a brand new one here with a new gasket. If yours is good, you don't have to replace yours. But like I said, mine is just in pretty rough shape, so I'm just going to put a new one on it. So now the first thing I'm going to do is take off this sensor. So it just unplugs. It is a 22 millimeter, and I'm just gonna take this sensor out. All right, this is your temperature sensor. You want to save this for the new one. Next thing is 2 more 13 millimeter bolts. Also, you have 2 10 millimeter bolts here on the side that are holding on a bracket. So you want to pull that out. And there's your backing plate. So when you get it all nice and clean, get yourself some brake clean. Clean it up real good. Get yourself a rag and just wipe it down. You just want to make sure there's no oil or any residue left on here. nice and dry area. And then also you want to do the same exact thing to the new one. We're just going to do the one side first. We'll wait on this side since our hand's going to be touching it. So we're just going to do this one side here. Take some brake clean, spray it real good, and just wipe it down. Take your black gasket maker or blue, whatever color you got, and you got your gasket here. Now remember, we're going to put our gasket on here just like that, but we want to take and put a light coat of this gasket maker on both sides of this gasket. So what I do is I just use a glove and I put a nice little glob on my glove, and I will go around both sides of this gasket. So now that I have both sides of my gasket covered, I feel really confident in this. Now you can go ahead and place your gasket where it goes. You want to be careful to get it right over top the holes and just set it in place. All right. We will go ahead and slide that in. There's one. And here's two. We'll take our 13 millimeter and just tighten this up. I forgot about the alternator bracket, so I'm going to pull this back off and slide my alternator in there, because that goes like that. Almost forgot about it. So the next thing we're going to do is take our water pump gasket, and we're going to do the same exact thing that we just did. You know, you're going to fill this up with your gasket maker on both sides, just a light coating, and then we're going to set this in place where it goes. So I'm just getting a visual here right now to see where my gasket goes. So my gasket's going to go just like that, just so I know where it goes. All right, and then I take my finger like that, and I just go around it. You don't have to be real thick, just a real light coating. Don't forget to clean this really good with brake clean. So I got a rag here with some brake cleaner on it. Make sure this is all nice and dry and ready for that gasket. All right, so now we'll take our gasket, and you want to put it where it goes. Just lightly press on it. You don't want to glob it too much. All right, so we got our gasket on. Now we want to take our water pump, and I'm going to put one bolt here ready to go. Okay, so there, I got the first two bolts started. All right, want to start all your bolts. Now you just want to go around and tighten them, but don't tighten them all right in a row, you know, like go cross. So I'm tightening this one. Then next I'll take my 10 millimeter and tighten this one. You know what I mean? Just go around and just tighten them all. Don't over tighten them because you'll break them. I don't know the torque on these. I'll go this one. All right, the next thing we can do is start putting our hoses back on. We know this one went right here, so we'll go ahead and shove that one back up in there. Okay, and that one goes to the radiator. We'll tighten it up. And this one connects here. This one's a little tight to get in, but just gotta squeeze it up in there. Yeah, that one was a little tight to get up in there. Okay, we got it in. That's that one. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these up. I didn't screw my temperature sensor in to the top of here because I replaced my water pump back plate. So there's my water pump sensor. Let's tighten that back up. And you want to plug this back in. There's that. So now your water pump came with these new studs. Now, even though we're not really going to use these because our water pump or our fan uses actual bolts, we're going to use these just to help hold it on there. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean here in a minute. So you just want to screw these in just like 1 or 2 turns, you know, not much at all, because we're going to take these back out. All right, this is just to help guide the pulleys back on. It just makes it a little bit easier. So we'll take our pulley, we'll slide that on. Then we'll take our fan and slide that on. You see what I mean? It made it a lot easier to put that on. And now we can just take one of these out at a time, unscrew one at a time, and replace it with a bolt. Okay, just do one at a time. It just makes it a lot easier to get these bolts lined up. There's number 2. Okay. There's number 3. And this was a 10 millimeter. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. And 4. Once your fan is all tight, you can go ahead and reroute your belt back on here. Make sure your belt is around your pulleys. There we go. All right, so what I was saying earlier about the belt, when it comes time to do this, you see how now it's too tight, we can't get it over that alternator. So here is a 13 millimeter bolt here on this bracket. You want to just loosen that bracket up again. Not much, just enough to where you can move this alternator back and forth. So you want to push it all the way up, get your belt around it, okay, and then pull back down on it until you feel it's tight. It doesn't take much. So now I'm just going to put some tension on it with my hand as I tighten this bolt back. Okay, and that's it. I mean, that's tight. And now we are to the point where we can put our fan shroud back in. So we want to put that in first. Okay. And now we can drop our radiator in. It's a little tricky to get it in there, but you just gotta, you know, move some things around. There it goes. Okay. Remember, there's 4 bolts on the back here that hold the fan shroud on, and then you got 4 bolts on the front that hold the radiator on. So now we can go ahead and get our bottom radiator hose put back in and tighten that up. Then also remember our drain hose on the bottom here. You can plug that back in and tighten that up. Also remember to put your bolt back into the drain line. Remember in the beginning of the video we drained the radiator fluid. So you want to make sure you put that bolt back in and tighten that back up. And then the last hose is right here at the top that plugs into the top of the radiator. Put that back in there and tighten that up. So that pretty much sums up the water pump replacement. So I hope you guys learned something, hope this helped somebody out. We put a new water pump on, we put a new back plate on. We didn't really have to do the back plate, but like I said, I didn't want to have any problems in the future. So while I had it all apart, I went ahead and did it all. The next thing to do is to let this water pump and the gasket and everything dry, because we put that sealer on there. Let that dry for 24 hours and then go ahead and fill it up with radiator fluid, start it up, check for leaks. If nothing's leaking, you're good to go. So I feel pretty confident in this. I don't think we're gonna have any leaks. You know, I've always done my water pumps like this. I never had any issues. But make sure y'all stay tuned, because we're going to be putting a new seat on. We got a new exhaust to put on. We got a new radiator. Like, we have a whole bunch of new parts to put on here. And all thanks to FridayParts.com. Make sure y'all go check them out. That's FridayParts.com. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you on the next one.